Now, you already know that to fly VFR at an airport in controlled airspace, you need to have at least 3 miles visibility. And if you're going to fly underneath the ceiling has to be at least 1,000 feet. However, sometimes, as you can see, the conditions aren't quite that good around an airport. Maybe there's fog off one end of the runway or local blowing dust or smoke. And the weather might be great everywhere else, but due to this, you just can't get there. Well, there is one way you can get into or out of the airport under these conditions, and that way is called special VFR. What you do is call up and get a special VFR clearance from Air Traffic Control. Now, special VFR clearances allow you to fly in operations in surface area controlled airspace when the weather is less than basic VFR. That means it's less than a 1,000-foot ceiling and less than 3 miles visibility. Now, when you get a special VFR clearance, the clearance will separate you from IFR traffic in that airspace. So essentially what a special VFR clearance does is provide you with IFR separation even if you're not an IFR operation. It's kind of like a poor man's IFR. Now, to fly special VFR, you as pilot in command must first request it. And special VFR then has to be approved by Air Traffic Control. And it would be either a control tower or approach control or Air Route Traffic Control Center. Now, if there is no control tower at the airport, but for instance, there is a flight service station on field, you can ask the flight service station for the special VFR clearance. Now, flight service station is not Air Traffic Control, but what they'll do is relay the request to Air Traffic Control to get your clearance for you. Now, Air Traffic Control will not volunteer special VFR clearances to you. Special VFR allows you to operate in pretty bad weather, and they're not going to encourage you to do that. But if you ask for it as a pilot in command, they will give it to you unless you conflict with an IFR operation at that time. If there are IFR operations, the IFR people have priority, so ATC will just fit you in as they can. But if you don't conflict with IFR traffic and you ask for special VFR, then the controller must give it to you, provided the weather conditions are okay. Now, let's take a look at a sectional chart, and we'll take a look at the big city of Paso Robles, California. Now, Paso Robles, you'll notice, does not have a control tower. How do I know that? Well, if you look in the group of letters, numbers about the airport, it does not say CT and a frequency here. And the airport symbol is magenta, not blue. So they do not have a control tower. But what they do have around Paso Robles is surface area Class E airspace. And you know that because they have this dashed magenta line going around the airport. And surface area Class E airspace is one place where special VFR operations are allowed. You can get special VFR in the surface areas of B, C, D, and E airspace, up to, but not including, 10,000 feet MSL. So back here at Paso Robles, we know that we can get special VFR because we have Class E surface area. Now, who do we call to get this special VFR? Oftentimes a control tower, but they don't have a control tower, so what we need to do is call flight service stations because they have no control tower there. So, if you look up here, they have a VOR on field. It's controlled by Hawthorne Flight Service Station or Hawthorne Radio, and we'd call them on the frequency 122.4 and ask them for special VFR, and they'll relay our request. Now, let's talk about the requirements for special VFR. What do you have to have for special VFR? Well, first of all, you have to have a clearance from Air Traffic Control. And what kind of weather do you have to have for special VFR? Not very much. The weather minimums for airplanes for special VFR are 1 statute mile visibility, that's all you have to have, and clear of clouds. Just don't fly into clouds anywhere. Now, the same weather applies at nighttime, but there is a hitch. Since you can't see the clouds at night, to fly special VFR at nighttime, that's after sunset, then you must have an instrument rating, and you must be current, and your aircraft must be instrument equipped. So at nighttime, you have to be instrument rated and equipped. Now, let's assume you're flying into Paso Robles. Let's assume you're coming in from the east here, and the visibility isn't quite 3 miles. So if you're going to land at Paso Robles Airport because they have surface area Class E airspace, you must have special VFR to get in there. So let's see how that might sound. You might call them up on the radio, and the people you're going to be calling are Hawthorne Radio here, and you'll say something like, you'll use your pilot's voice here, Hawthorne Radio, this is Cessna 359er Echo Sierra. We're 10 miles east requesting special VFR for landing Paso Robles. Now, Hawthorne is not air traffic control. They'll call ATC, they'll relay your request, they'll get the clearance, and then they'll relay the clearance back to you. And they'll say something like, ATC clears Cessna 359er Echo Sierra to the Paso Robles Airport from the east and maintain special VFR at or below 2,000 feet. Now, when they give this clearance to you, it would be a good idea to have a pencil and paper ready, because they'll give you a direction to fly and an altitude and some other instructions, and they'll want you to read it back to them. Just answering with the word Roger will not do it. In fact, it'll make them very nervous, because they want you to repeat the instructions to them so that they know you got it down right. So you better write it down. Now, when you receive a special VFR clearance, you own the airport. They can't let anyone else fly in here until you either cancel special VFR or they find the wreckage. So they would appreciate it very much if you would cancel your clearance, because you have the airport shut down. If you had received a special VFR clearance for departure, air traffic control would normally tell you to report leaving the airspace. And what this does is let ATC know that the airspace is available for somebody else again. And it's just plain old common courtesy to your fellow pilots. Everybody would appreciate it. Now, there is a potential trap with a special VFR clearance, because it's only valid inside the surface area of Class B, C, D, or E airspace. So as soon as you get outside that surface area, you have to have basic VFR weather minimums again to be legal. And that normally means 3 miles visibility and those clearances from the clouds. So you need to make sure, if you're departing an airport on a special VFR clearance, that you have a good enough weather out here when you get outside the surface area airspace to be legal. And if the reason for the reduced visibility or ceiling at the airport is maybe fog or some local condition, you might be okay. But you need to be careful and think about what the weather is going to be when you get out here, and will you be legal. Now, at some airports, like Los Angeles International, Chicago's O'Hare, New York's Kennedy, they are so busy at these airports, there's no way in the world you're going to avoid delaying an IFR flight. So they put up here, no special VFR, and a group of letters, numbers about the airport, and that means don't even bother to ask, guys. You ain't gonna get it. No special VFR is allowed here. Now, 1 mile visibility and ceilings below 1,000 feet for special VFR is not very good weather, and that's why controllers won't suggest special VFR to you. But there's some cases where special VFR can be a useful way to get into or out of an airport, so think of it as a tool you can tuck away in your bag of tricks just in case you ever need it.